Hi everybody, thank you very much for joining me. Happy New Year to you all. Hope you've had a good Christmas. Hope you're all relaxed and ready to hit 2026. It's time to start thinking about what those Beatles and the members of might be bringing us this year. It's an absolute fool's game trying to predict this because who knows what they've got planned. But I'm willing to be that fool who tries to do this prediction. So I'm going to talk about what I think are the most likely things that we might be getting this year, along with one or two of my hopes as well. So I'm going to go through the solo members of the Beatles first and then on to the Beatles themselves further on. There'll be chapters here. You can skip straight to those parts if you want. But let's start with Ringo. What might Ringo be up to this year? Well, it's only really pretty much bang on a year since his last full studio album, Look Up, came out. And that seemed like very much an exception at the time. He's been in this habit of doing EPs rather than albums, and I think Look Up was seen as a bit of a break from what he actually prefers doing now. There hasn't really been any word from Ringo yet as to what he might be following that up with this year, other than the live shows with the All-Star Band that he continues to do. So I certainly wouldn't expect a studio album from Ringo this year, unless he wants to surprise us again. Wouldn't be at all surprised if he continues the EPs that he's been doing. I've really enjoyed those EPs. I think there's been some really good stuff on those, so I wouldn't have any objections to that. It does work out a little bit more expensive when you're paying almost album price for a 4-track EP, but I think the quality's been there to justify that. So we'll see what happens with Ringo, but there's nothing really confirmed yet. We're long past the stage where we might have had a 50th anniversary box set of the Ringo album, which seemed to be, if he's going to do it for any album, it's going to be that one. Ringo's made it clear he's not interested in that, so I don't see that there's any likelihood of Ringo going down that path anytime soon. George's reissues continue at a glacial pace. Goodness me, they are still, even just in the last few days, still going off the back of the Living in the Material World box set and promoting Give Me Love, Give Me Peace on Earth, for example. There's been a new video for it come out, directed by Finn Wolfhard from Stranger Things. So they seem to be still very much in that mode rather than looking to what's next. This is going to be a bit of a guess. It would seem the most likely thing that we might get from the George camp this year could be some sort of a reissue of the Concert for Bangladesh. We know that whole film, the audio and the video, has been fully restored and it looks really good now, but they've not really done anything with it yet, other than sort of using it in a few social media posts. That's an expensive job doing that restoration, and you would assume that they're not going to have gone to that expense unless they actually had some proper plan for it. I can imagine that Concert for Bangladesh is not an easy thing to reissue. There's going to be the various rights issues because of all the different people who were appearing in the concert. So maybe they've got some hurdles there. I think it's the most likely thing is some sort of revamp of Concert for Bangladesh, though. We've already gone past the point where, for example, a Dark Horse 50th anniversary box set would come out. So I think Dark Horse and Extra Texture were always likely to be probably not commercially viable in the same way that an All Things Must Pass box set or a Living in the Material World box set were. It looks as though we're probably not getting those. If they are, they're certainly well after a 50th anniversary for the box. So yeah, Concert for Bangladesh seems most likely. Looking a little bit further ahead, next year, I love the idea of a 40th anniversary box set of Cloud 9 next year. We know that people in the industry have said that the concept of the box set, the physical box set, unfortunately is probably nearing the end of its commercially viable life in the next 5 years or so. I know that some major artists think that that's not actually going to be the way that they can do things anymore. So would you want to hang on for a 50th anniversary? Get those out now while you still can, while there's still people buying physical box sets. So I would hope, looking further ahead to next year, I would hope to be sat here sort of saying Cloud 9 box set coming, hopefully, but don't know on that one yet. One curiosity with George at the moment is that all of the Travelling Wilburys songs have recently been pulled from all streaming services. Now, sometimes that means that something is happening. Maybe they're going to be replaced with new remixes or new remasters as part of some new box. So is there something planned with the Wilburys, or have they been going through some sort of change of record label, for example, that's meant it's had to be pulled? But it just seemed a little bit intriguing that that's recently disappeared from streaming. Could there be a reason for it? Let's stay tuned and find out. Moving on now to John Lennon. So there's a few things that we know here about what's happening with the John Lennon camp this year. We know for a fact there's not going to be an Ultimate Mix box set this year, like there has been over the past few years, where most recently, of course, with the Power to the People box set, and the Mind Games box set before that. We do know that Walls and Bridges is due in 2027. So don't expect one of those box sets this year, but they have said it's out next year. Also, what we have got confirmed so far for this year, although there's no release date yet announced for this, a Thames and Hudson book to tie in with the Power to the People box set. So there's been a Thames and Hudson book with each of the previous boxes that they've released over the last few years. Really good books, really interesting. While the books that come in the sort of deluxe CD box sets tend to be more focused on the album and the making of the album, the Thames and Hudson books, the real sort of quite luxurious coffee table books, are more designed to look at the era, what was going on in John's life and Yoko's life at the time that the album was made over that period. So we know that there's one coming for Power to the People. But like I say, there's not been an actual release date announced yet, and I don't think there's any links out there for you to be able to pre-order it, but it is confirmed as coming. Also, what we know is that that song that caused all the controversy last year, that was missing from the Power to the People box set, that song is going to be discussed at length in the Thames and Hudson book. So they're not completely ignoring the existence of that song. That was never the case. It's going to be discussed fully in that book. So I look forward to having a good read of that. The other things that we know are coming from the John camp, the one-to-one concerts, the two concerts at Madison Square Garden, August 1972. They, as we've seen various videos on YouTube of how good that's been cleaned up, and that looks really great. We know how good it sounds now from the Power to the People box set. That is going to be coming to, it's going to get a physical release by the time of John's birthday, October 9th. Might be before then, it might be on that day. We don't know exactly yet. So it's confirmed for Blu-ray. There is a hope that that's going to be in cinemas as well. There's a hope that it's going to be on streaming. Don't know which platform yet. But that is going to get a big release this year. So I would expect that to be the big John Lennon release for this year. So it will have the same track listing as in the Power to the People box set. So there's a couple of bits that aren't there. I know why it was done in the box set for various reasons, also including the fact that it would have had to have been more discs if they'd included an extra song or two. And would you all have wanted to pay for that? Well, some of you might have done, some of you certainly wouldn't. But that's going to be good coming by October. My one big hope, this is just my own hope here for the John Lennon camp, is that they release the New York City album. I don't mean sometime in New York City, although that would be great. I mean the remixed New York City album that we got digital versions of on CD in the box set that's behind me there. That was on that's been on streaming. I would hope that we get that on vinyl. Maybe for Record Store Day in April. That would be ideal. It deserves it. It was such a strange time last year for myself and for other people who have Beatles YouTube channels who got very thankfully gifted that box set. The amount of grief we took from people when we were saying what a good box set it was and how good the remix was and how alive those songs felt once they'd been remixed. And it was interesting to note that once the box set was released to the general public, the overwhelming consensus that I certainly saw online from people was that they were saying it was as good as we'd all been saying it was. It wasn't just us saying it because we'd been sent it. That album sounds really good, that New York City remix, and I hope it gets a vinyl release because it deserves it. But that's just my hope. Moving on to Paul McCartney now. Big year ahead for Paul. I often seem to say it's a big year ahead for Paul. It is no different in 2026. The big... It's actually difficult to know which is the big thing here, because there's a few of them. But let's start with a new Paul McCartney studio album. I think that has to take priority. That should be out this year, we would hope. A year ago, I was saying the same thing, though, that it should be out this year, because a year ago, Paul had said he was going to have Christmas off and then he was going to start coming to mix his new album. And then we didn't really hear anything else throughout 2025. Paul said again at Christmas that the new album is about done, and I think his phrase was along the lines of they're going to start think about how to put it together. Now that suggests to me maybe track sequencing, potentially. So hopefully they're about there with that. New album, we know what a media blitz that's going to be. A new Paul McCartney album, as they have been in the last few years with things like Egypt Station, McCartney 3. Over 5 years now since McCartney 3, it's hard to believe. There will be multiple colours of vinyl, no doubt. There'll be the CDs, there'll be streaming, there'll be all sorts of things. Could it be his last studio album? I mean, certainly I've been thinking that since Egypt Station, but, you know, the rules of linear time suggest it can't be far away. His last studio album, could this be it? Could he be taking more time over it because it might be his last? Who knows? He might have another 2 or 3 in him yet. Who knows? But I'm really looking forward to that. I enjoyed McCartney 3. I thought that was good. Egypt Station is it's probably in my top half dozen Paul McCartney solo albums. So he's still got it in him. He really has. Even though the voice is not what it was, he's still got interesting things to offer. So I'm really looking forward to that. That should be this year. Wings. Let's move on to Wings, because it's going to be a big year for Wings. We had the Wings compilation that came out 2 or 3 months ago, as well as the book as well. But that's been really leading up to the main event, which is the Man on the Run documentary, which is coming out, scheduled at the moment for 27th of February on Amazon Video streaming. And my hope for this is that this is going to be like Wingspan, but a lot bigger and better. Wingspan was good, but it just really felt like a starter. It felt like it was over before it really got going. So I hope that this goes into a lot more depth. I hope it's a lot longer. We don't know the running time yet. I'd certainly love to go and see it in the cinema if it gets a cinema run. But the man who's put this documentary together, Morgan Neville, he said that he expects it to be released in cinemas. It might be one of those one night only things, a little bit like One Hand Clapping potentially. But I'd love to go and see it there. But that does suggest that it's cinema length rather than a Get Back documentary 9 hours or whatever. Morgan Neville also said that he expects there to be an accompanying soundtrack album. Now, the way that he was describing it, as though it might have sort of unreleased rarities, outtakes, that kind of thing, suggests that he wasn't referring to the Wings album that came out a couple of months ago. So hopefully we're going to get some, maybe like a Beatles anthology style album of Wings material. So it's certainly been suggested as a possibility by the man who's made the documentary. So that would be great if that happens. What else might we get from Paul McCartney this year? So the Half Speed Remaster campaign that's been going now since McCartney came out in, I think it was 2020. I've really enjoyed that series. I think there's slightly mixed results, but some of those records sound great, and it's a good way as well to get them back on the shelves for people who've maybe not owned them on vinyl before. So Wings at the Speed of Sound, that should be out this year to carry on that series. The big question, of course, will be, what colour will the side spine be? That's the important question. That's what we want to know. I'd expect it to be like some sort of sandy, reddish sandy colour, but who knows? Also, as well, could we get the next one in that series, Wings Over America? Because that was released at the back end of 1976. It's the 50th anniversary. I wouldn't be surprised if that's pushed back to early 2027. Could it be the Record Store Day release for 2027? Perhaps. So we might get both this year. I wouldn't be surprised if Wings Over America gets pushed back to next year. The one thing that I really hope is that this renewed interest in Wings, this push that Paul has been giving Wings, that it deserves lately, will be enough to make him and MPL think that there is enough demand for the blooming London Town and Back to the Egg archive collections. I think they either happen this year, while, strike while the iron's hot. Wings are going to be in the eye of Paul McCartney fans this year. If they don't do it this year, I hate to say it, it's probably safe to declare the Paul McCartney archive collection dead. But I hope it Lazarus style springs back to life this year with those two. There is no news on that so far. Let me be clear on that. There's no news to suggest that they are being worked on. We know that work was done years ago. The likes of Lawrence Schuber, Steve Holley, Denny Lane, they all did quite a few interviews for prospective archive collections of those albums years ago, and nothing's happened with them yet. So we'll see. I think it's either this year or forget it. Hopefully we're not forgetting it. One other potentially interesting thing for Paul McCartney fans that hopefully is going to be happening over the next 2, 3, 4 months. Holidays, the Buddy Holly cover album that Denny Lane did back in 1976, or should I say Denny, Paul and Linda did in 1976. It was released under Denny's name, but that album was produced by Paul McCartney. Paul's pretty much playing all the instruments on it. Denny's singing. It was released, it was recorded in August 1976, in between, after the Wings Over America tour and before Wings sort of came back to do the final European legs of that particular tour. It was recorded at Rude Studios up in Scotland in that time period. Denny's widow has suggested that a reissue of that album is on its way, hopefully with some extra stuff, but we don't know. I'm excited for that because I will be completely honest, I've never heard that album. I've never even heard it. It's not an easy album to get hold of. I suspect if I went onto YouTube and typed it in, I could probably find a crappy copy of it, but it'd be great to get a proper release of it. I would be well up for that. So listen out for that potentially over the next 2 or 3 months, because she suggested spring of 2026 could be the time when that happens. Okay. The Beatles. We got there eventually, didn't we? The Beatles. So what could happen this year for them? It's been an interesting but very frustrating few years, I think, for Beatles releases. So it's now over 3 years since we got the Revolver box set, and that campaign was ticking over beautifully. It got derailed a little bit by COVID. You can't blame the Beatles for COVID, but essentially up until Revolver, it was all going nicely. And then what? Well, we've certainly had plenty of things since then. We had Now and Then, brilliant. I continue to absolutely love Now and Then. It came with reissued Red and Blue albums, which I still don't understand the logic in that at all. Now and Then should have been with the revamped anthology. That just makes total sense. That Anthology 4 would have been a perfect place to put Now and Then for its first release. But didn't happen. It's done. It's gone now. We've also had Beatles 64. Yeah, that was good. Didn't set my world on fire. The restored Let It Be on Disney Plus, great. But where's the physical release of that? Now, we did get a physical release of Get Back a while after it had gone on to Disney Plus. So hopefully there's maybe some exclusivity period where after that we can get a physical release of Let It Be. Let's have that, please, Beatles. The new revamped anthology with the magnificent episode 9. I love that episode. Can we have a physical release of that, please? I wouldn't expect that anytime soon. Let It Be, if it's going to happen, Let It Be would be sooner. Anthology, maybe you might be looking sort of another year or so before that could happen if Disney Plus have got the exclusivity. But we do know that Disney have launched a new sort of arm which is designed for releasing physical copies of their product, which wasn't the case a few years ago. They'd sort of pulled back from it, but they have put in place a proper mechanism to be able to do physical releases of things that they want to physically release. So hopefully that will happen. All this basically leads me to say is, for goodness sake, will you get Rubber Soul done this year? What else can come and knock Rubber Soul out of the picture? It's hard to see what else could get in the way this year. Rubber Soul has to be the priority for 2026, surely. It would be very interesting to see if and when that gets announced. We know that the revamped anthology albums had various tracks that were from the previous deluxe editions, White Album, Sgt. Pepper, etc. Will the Rubber Soul tracks that were on there, like for example take one of In My Life, the early take of Norwegian Wood, would they be in the box, but they were sort of preempted by anthology? Or will it be all things that we actually haven't had released yet? It will be very interesting to see that. I hope that there is lots of other stuff. There will be lots of other stuff in the vault that they can put on a Rubber Soul box set. So I think that has to be the priority. Fans are clamouring for it. Like Paul McCartney, fans are clamouring for London Town and Back to the Egg. It's time to focus, Beatles. Get us Rubber Soul this year. I really can't think what the obvious alternative is to that. If it's something else that continues that series of the expanded box sets of Beatles, then fair enough. I'll be okay with that. If it's this box set that covers that missing time period between Sgt. Pepper and the White Album, so covering all the Magical Mystery Tour era and the sort of early 1968 stuff, maybe throw Carnival of Light in there, please. If it was that instead, great, I will love that. It would still be a bit frustrating about, my God, they've put Rubber Soul back again, but we will see what happens on that. But I think that has to be the big thing for 2026. I do want to know what you think about all these things as well. What are your hopes? What do you think we'll get? And they can be two different things. What you hope we get and what you think we'll get might not be the same things at all. But let us know what you think about this. It's going to be an expensive year again, I'm sure. But would we want it any other way? There's lots of bands out there who are long defunct, even current bands where there is never any news. Nothing's happening, ever. With the Beatles, there seems to be something happening all the time. We're getting a reissue of something, we're getting a better version of something than what we had before, we're getting some rarity released. There's always something happening. It's never boring being a Beatles fan like it could be with some other bands where nothing's happening. So I'm looking forward to seeing what comes this year. In terms of me personally and this YouTube channel, I apologise for 2025. I wasn't around much. I didn't give some things the attention that I normally like to give these things. It was a very weird year, a lot of upheaval. A lot of you will know I moved house. That took up so much time. The act of moving house, moving into a new house, building a home here. I took my foot off the ball, definitely, last year, for good reason. I want to try and get back to being what I was before for this channel. And that's not going to be easy for various reasons, but my promise to you is that I will try and get back to doing what I was doing before 2025, the regular videos covering things in, I wouldn't say forensic depth, but certainly going a bit geeky and nerdy on certain Beatles related subjects and other things as well. I want to start doing more non-Beatles related videos as well, like I always used to do. This has never been just a Beatles channel. I've always done other things as well, so I want to get back to that this year and I will try my best. Sorry for not being around so much in 2025. So thank you very much for watching. Remember, let me know what you would like to see this year from the Beatles and the four members of. And I will see you again very soon. Cheers. Bye-bye.